John 10:9 says, "I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture." A shepherd's day involved taking the sheep and able lambs from the sheep pen out to pasture, then back to the pen. The sheep pen was a place of safety and security, and a place where the animals were cared for in specific ways through grooming and the veterinary medicine of the day. The sheep could be fed in the pen, but feeding sheep in the pen required work to bring the food and water to the animals. Thus the need to pasture the sheep. Sheep were taken to pasture to provide them with fresh forage, fresh air, water, and exercise. Unfortunately, the pasture was also a place of danger, where wild animals took advantage of the weak and lame to gain a quick meal. How does this compare with the modern church? Our pastors take very seriously the work they do, and they value their sheep highly. Not wanting to lose even one sheep, they keep them penned as much as possible. Whereas Jesus sent out disciples, his sheep, to do ministry, our churches have created ministry opportunities within the sheep pen itself, the church building. The sheep are fed through the heavy lifting of the pastor and staff, who provide Bible studies, prayer groups, seminars, sermons, video feeds, financial and emotional counseling, concerts, and the like. The sheep are so overwhelmed with feeding opportunities, they hardly have time to peer through the pen's fence to wonder what's outside. The pen becomes their spiritual world. Our pastors, or shepherds, are so overtaxed and burned out from hauling feed and water to the sheep that they become exhausted. They spend no time or so little time in the pasture that they have little experience fending off dangers. When dangers do come, pastors are ill-equipped to stop the attacker until permanent damage is done. Many times our pastors fall prey to attacks themselves. Our sheep are sincere, seeking the greater things of God, so they squeeze their snouts into the feeding trough of spirituality, gorging on as much rich teaching as they have time for in the week. They still feel unfulfilled though, so they feed more and more. The effect on the sheep of all this penning and feeding is that they become overfed but undernourished. Doctors today speculate that we overeat because our food is of so little value that our hunger is not satisfied, so we continue to eat empty calories and fat. Since we also get little exercise, that packs on the fat quickly and we feel lifeless. We become diseased. Christians in the modern church are like this, hopping from one experience to another, one feeding to another, one pen to another, looking for spiritual nourishment. They miss the real meat, the relationship with God that can satisfy their spiritual hunger in a way that talking about a relationship with God cannot do. What the sheep need is to be led out of the pen to serve the living God. A lamb is led to pasture when it can walk the journey. It's the weakest of sheep and the most vulnerable to attack, and the shepherd watches it most closely. However, the shepherd knows that the lamb will grow to healthy adulthood only if it suffers the joys and hardships of the pasture. Pastor who shelters his lambs and sheep in the sheep pen may be acting out of sincere concern, but is doing them disservice. I've heard pastors preach against parachurch ministries, shouting that all ministry must be done through the local church. Well, the very existence of parachurch ministries indicates that the church is failing in a large part of its mission, namely because it's keeping everyone pinned inside. It would be awesome if we needed no parachurch ministries because pastors were leading their sheep into the pasture to serve the living God and people he loves. So what's a pastor to do? The pastor and other leaders of the true church must lead their people out into the world with proper preparation. Today's slogan-driven churches do a decent job of feeding lambs and sheep within the sheep pens. However, they only talk of the pasture. Occasionally, they lead the people into controlled situations such as mission trips to minister, that is, exercise, but too infrequently. Luke 10 records Jesus sending out 72 men like lambs among wolves. But he did not ask for volunteers. Rather, he appointed these men. This is a foreign concept today. Once a person is educated in the basics of the faith and understands how to pray and read the scriptures, he or she should be expected to move out into the real world with others in the church to exercise that knowledge and further build relationship with God. Sitting in church listening to sermons is important, but it's precious little exercise. The activities inside the church are but a decent training ground for work in the real world. Sheep must be fed, yes, but sheep must exercise lest they atrophy, become useless, and die an early death. Why should the lion prowl in the pasture and fight the shepherd when he can pick off weak, fat sheep in the pen at night? Can you spell internet porn? Find a shepherd in the pasture and fulfill your destiny as a sheep. Or better yet, grab your shepherd and lead him out into the pasture. Train him to be a shepherd. Show him your scars and how the true shepherd healed those wounds. Teach him to fulfill his purpose as a pastor outside the box. Then you can both lead the sheep into the pasture where they will find nourishment, exercise, strength, and spiritual purpose. Our next video discusses what you can do as one of those healthy sheep.